If you've ever searched for a credit card that has a lower credit score, you've probably seen this one pop up. But before you apply for that card, let's make sure you know what you're signing up for. Hey guys, I'm Stephanie Adams and I'm an accredited financial counselor. And for people who are trying to rebuild credit, there's not a lot of options out there for those cards that have low credit scores. And they often come with some fees and stuff that maybe you're not prepared for. I want to take a look at a card today. This is the First Premier card. A lot of people are familiar with it. I see it on a lot of credit reports, both in a good way and in a negative way. But let's just walk through what this card has to offer so you can make an informed decision on if this is the right card for you or not. So the First Premier Unsecured MasterCard is specifically designed for people who have a credit score of 500 or higher. So that's a pretty low credit score that you could get qualified for. First Premier has built this program as a second chance program. They even have it listed on their website, which you can see here, where they'll talk to you about how this card is designed for people who have had credit problems in the past. But you do have to be aware that people who have had credit problems in the past have a negative history, and therefore the bank's going to assume some risks to take you on as a client. So just because a company is sympathetic with you doesn't mean they're not going to charge you for being a risk. So for First Premier, there is no security deposit that you have to put down, not for this unsecured MasterCard. You don't have to put down a security deposit. There's a high APR and the credit limits aren't that high. In fact, I think the most that you can get approved for is 700. So anywhere from 200 to 700. If you're a member of the military, this is not a card that you can qualify for because the APR can go above the military lending limit.
Really quickly, let's take you through the fees that are associated with the unsecured MasterCard from First Premier. Starting off, your interest rate for using this card is 36%. This is as of July 15th, 2025. I'm looking up this information. So it's 36% for your interest rates. The cash advance, the fee is not changing. That is still the same, 36%. And if you want to avoid paying interest on purchases, you just need to pay before the billing cycle closes out so you can avoid that interest. Scrolling down here, this is where it gets a little bit confusing and why people complain a bit about the fees on this card. I mean, I would say people complain a lot about the fees on this card because it is so confusing. So here, it actually goes by tiers. So, again, you can get approved for a $200 card to as high as $700. And based on what you get approved for, you're going to have some program fees. So, it looks like anywhere between $200 and $500, you're going to pay a one-time $95 fee. And that fee actually has to be paid before you even get access to the card. So while you don't have a security deposit, you definitely have a program fee. If you get approved for $600 or $700, you can see those fees change. Remember, those fees have to be paid before you even get access to the card, okay? So you have the program fees, and then on top of those program fees, you also have an annual fee. So you're going to pay $50 for a $200 limit, $75 for a $300, $100 for $400, $125 for $500, and I'm assuming that your score is probably higher than $500 because they lower the fees here at the $600 and $700 range. So they're just a little bit lower, but you can see you'll have the initial fee will be a little bit higher, and then every year you have the card afterwards. The fee is always going to be $45 every year. Now, on top of those fees, you're also going to see monthly fees, not for just what you're charging, but monthly fees. They won't kick in until the second year, which is when a lot of complaints start to come in. But for the first year, there's no fees. After that, it's $75 a year, and they bill that at $625 per month. And it kind of goes up from the $500 to $700 credit limit. And then you'll see the initial available credit will change too. So even though you got approved for a $700 card, you're automatically going to owe your first statement. It's going to take away some of those fees. Okay. There's a cash advance fee. It's $8 or 5% of the cash advance. There's foreign currency. Your late fees and your return item fees are both going to be $39. I do want to click into the eligibility criteria. It says you may not qualify for this offer if you live in New York or Wisconsin. So you are likely not going to get approved if you live in those states. If you do not live in the United States, you may not be approved. You got to have a social security number. You have to be 18. You have to be a legal citizen of the United States. You have to have a minimum income of at least $10,000. You have to have a sufficient income or assets to pay your obligations. If you already have a card that you've applied for, you may not get approved for a second one. If you had a first Premier and then you filed for bankruptcy and you included that first Premier card in your bankruptcy, you're not going to get approved for this card.
So if you're signing up for this card without reading the disclosure statements, these fees can kind of come out of nowhere. All right, so should you even bother with this card? In my opinion, if this is the card that is going to get you to rebuild your credit, I don't see a problem with it as long as you really understand what the fees are going to be. Now, that is the unsecured MasterCard from First Premier. But the other option is the secured card from First Premier. And let me show you the difference between these two cards. Number one, the secured card with First Premier, you absolutely have to put down a deposit, and that deposit becomes your credit limit. So we're just going to say it's going to be $200 at a minimum to start for your deposit. But you can deposit up to $5,000 if you want to. And the interest rate right now is right around 19.9%, which is pretty comparable to a lot of the other cards that are on the market right now that are unsecured. It does report to all three bureaus, which the unsecured card does as well. And your approval odds are pretty high because you're putting the money down and they're using your money to secure the account. So if you default, they're just going to go ahead and take that money from you. So again, your approval odds are pretty high. So going the secure side gives you a few benefits. There's predictable costs. It's good for newbies. There's no credit checks in some cases on the secured side, but there are no rewards, and it still does have an annual fee. We did see feedback that somebody was able to get this card right after a bankruptcy to start rebuilding their credit. So again, if used properly, this card could really be beneficial. My advice is if you decide to get this card, to really keep it for 6 to 12 months, enough to really start giving your credit a base to build on. And if you do everything you're supposed to properly with credit, keep your balance low, make sure you pay everything on time, in 12 months' time, you should be able to start qualifying for other cards. So there's a lot of credit building cards out there, but not all of them are built equally. If you have questions or you've used the First Premier card, please drop a comment below. Make sure you subscribe and we will figure it all out together. I'm Stephanie Adams. We'll chat soon.